welcome to A Year of Hitchcock Movies. We are your hosts, Jeff and Diane, and this is movie number 39, The Wrong Man, from 1956. And after remaking one of his own movies, last week's The Man Who Knew Too Much, Alfred Hitchcock again does something quite new here. He takes a story idea from the headlines, takes it from the news, and turns it into a movie. When Hitchcock was under contract with Warner Brothers, the movies Strangers on a Train, Stage Fright, I Confess, Island for Murder, he took an eternity to come up with a movie. It took a long time to come up with I Confess. And he felt kind of bad about that. He felt bad because he was actually treated really well at Warner Brothers, and they were real patient with him. So he promised in a letter in 1952 to Jack Warner that sometime in the future he would come back and do a movie for them for no salary. And that movie is tonight's The Wrong Man. We have to remember that Warner Brothers really did rescue him in his failed production company Transatlantic Pictures, and they really did have a good relationship. Well, after 4 films for Paramount, that is the last 4 that we've just seen, he does fulfill that promise with tonight's movie, which is based on this event, this real-life event that took place January 14th in 1953 in Queens, New York. Christopher Emmanuel Balestrero was charged with armed robbery for crimes he didn't commit. There was an article about him later that year in June of 1953, written by Herbert Breen, called, forget what it's called, linking it up. There was a book written about it called The True Story of Christopher Emmanuel Balestrero, written by Maxwell Anderson, and there was actually a TV program that either played in late 1953 or early 1953 on the Robert Montgomery Presents TV show, and that TV show was called The Identified Man. Well, tonight it's tonight's movie in 1956. They actually brought in Warner's bought the rights to the Life magazine article, and they actually brought, who was not who they brought in, the guy that wrote the book, The True Story of Christopher Emmanuel Balestrero, Maxwell Anderson, they brought him in to write the script. And boy, they talked to tons of family members, they talked to real people who were there. We'll get more into that when the movie's done. And it really is, it's almost presented as a documentary. You know, they filmed it in as many real locations as possible in New York. And perhaps to keep it looking real and gritty, it's in black and white, and you know, the newsreels were in black and white, news on television was in black and white. Maybe they felt that would have been a little more realistic. And it's actually Alfred Hitchcock's second last black and white film. The last one, of course, is Psycho, and it has its own reasons for being in black and white, but we'll get to that later. I'm going to go ahead and link up the link to the Life magazine article written, but I would suggest for you to not read it until you've seen the movie, because it basically is the movie. In addition to these 2 documents, like I said, they brought in Maxwell Anderson, but Hitchcock, maybe to make things a little better, he brought in his old friend Angus MacPhail to work on the script. We remember Angus MacPhail, who did work on Spellbound, wrote those 2 French propaganda movies, Bon Voyage and Aventure Malgache. And we all remember he was involved in the controversy in the movie The Man Who Knew Too Much, with who wrote what, and spelling the end of the relationship with John Michael Hayes. This is the last work that he does, this work here with The Wrong Man, and he dies in 1962. And it must be remembered that Angus MacPhail is credited with coining the phrase MacGuffin. So, well, that's who wrote it, but who's in it? Well, how about Henry Fonda? He plays Christopher Emmanuel Balestrero. And Henry Fonda was already a big name at this point in 1956. He had been nominated for Best Actor for the lead role in The Grapes of Wrath in 1939. Well, he's in a great movie called The Oxbow Incident from 1943. And, you know, in next year, from 1956 to 1957, he'll star in what might be his best known role, 12 Angry Men. We're going to talk about that as well at the end of the movie. Finally, in 1981, for On Golden Pond, he wins the Oscar for Best Actor. He was 76 years old. What a great movie that is. And he is in tonight's movie, The Wrong Man. And boy, how many movies have we had that have the Wrong Man theme? We're always talking about it. Well, I counted, and for the ones that we've done, There's been 12 up till now. This will be the 13th. And of the 48 movies that we're watching in chronological order, 17 of them have the Wrong Man theme. The Lodger did, Murder did, 39 Steps, Young and Innocent, Stage Fright, absolutely, Saboteur, Sabotage, they all do. So anyways, and movies to come, believe me, they really do. So anyways, well, this one is called The Wrong Man. So also in tonight's movie is Vera Miles. That's a new name for us. If you recognize that name, it's because she's in Psycho. She plays Janet Leigh's very concerned sister in the second half of Psycho. So we'll get to that. Vera Miles was seen by Alfred Hitchcock on a TV show called Pepsi Cola Playhouse in 1953, and she'd been on a number of TV shows already. She was 23 or 26 or something, I forget. And boy, he just liked what he saw. He signed her to a 5-year deal, a 3-picture 5-year deal, and likely wanted to groom her into being his next Grace Kelly, perhaps his next Ingrid Bergman, next Annie Andra. In fact, he told the media that he was going to turn her into the next Grace Kelly. He actually casts her in the very first episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, called Revenge. Now, we're not going to get into Alfred Hitchcock Presents because we could do a whole year of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, but suffice it to say that this was his TV show that ran the first run from 1955 to 1962, and they did 270 episodes, and then from 1962 to 1965 another 93 episodes. That second run was called the Alfred Hitchcock Hour. Altogether, that's 363 episodes, so maybe we'll watch one a day for a year. Anyways, but this is the moment that Alfred Hitchcock becomes a household name. If he wasn't already famous from his movies and from his cameos, well, now he's on TV every week, and he's not starring in these half-an-hour shows, but he's introducing them at the beginning and saying something at the end, and he even directed a handful of them, and it made him rich. It made him richer, anyways. And boy, Vera Miles is cast in the first one. She's supposed to be in Vertigo, and she is in Psycho. We'll sure get into that a bit more. So Vera Miles, good. Also, Anthony Quayle is in it. He plays the defense lawyer, not to give anything away, but he was in a million movies, Lawrence of Arabia, The Guns and the Navarone. So now we've got members of the Hitchcock Dream Team, as I'm calling it. So the great black and white cinematography that we saw in I Confess, with Robert Burks in charge of that. This is his 8th movie in a row with Hitchcock, all the way back to Strangers on a Train. He'll do 12 movies in total with Hitchcock. The editing done by George Tomasini. This is his 4th of 9 movies that he'll do. Nice crisp editing. And the music by Bernard Herrmann. This is the 3rd movie of 8 in a row that he'll score the music for. And boy, it's a jazz score, because Balistrero is a jazz musician, and it's a very subtle score. It's very, very good. No Edith Head to do costume designing in this one, because there are no costumes. It's real clothes for real people. So now there's a special Hitchcock cameo. It happens right at the beginning of the movie, probably in the spirit of his new TV show, which at this point is already on TV, and it's already a big hit on TV. He addresses you, the audience, and tells you what you're about to see. So here we go. That's what you're about to see. From 1956, Alfred Hitchcock's The Wrong Man. Let's watch.